So good to be with you on a February the 12th, 2025. Maize and Blue Reviews. Good afternoon, Michigan football and basketball. That's right, they deserve it. Dusty May's crew with the big victory last night at the Chrysler Center, which still has people talking and buzzing, and we will get to that. Also, we're going to look at spring football and just how big of a deal this year's spring and spring game will be. The whole enchilada will be for Michigan football fans. Here's a little teaser. It's going to be really big and going to be really entertaining and a lot of things to look forward to with spring football when it comes to Michigan. We've got breaking news this afternoon, and it has to do with Ohio State's new defensive coordinator. They have penciled him in, and we will get to that coming up straight ahead. But we're going to start with Michigan basketball. But before we go to hoops in the hardwood and what happened with the Wolverines, you want more Michigan coverage. You want the best Michigan coverage. You want around-the-clock Michigan coverage. You like recruiting. You like features on the Maize and Blue. Well, you are feeling a little blue that the Super Bowl is over. Well, here is the remedy. Here is the tonic for your football vacuum, and it is the Maize and Blue Review. Join today and get instant access by going to michigan.rivals.com. I can't wait to see you over there. How about that? Well, Michigan, we put up the standings in the Big Ten, and I didn't know it last night during the postgame, although Indiana did have a 2 or 3 point lead at the half, right when I was signing off. But I did not think, Oregon had a 14-point lead on them the other day, and the Spartans were able to come back. But Michigan State loses at home to Indiana, coupled with Michigan taking down Purdue at home. And lo and behold, at the top of the conference standings sits Michigan, the Michigan Wolverines in the basketball team for 2024-2025. Nobody would have predicted this. Nobody saw this coming. This is a shock and a real pleasant surprise if you're a Michigan fan. They deserve it. They played a hell of a game yesterday. It wasn't a perfect game, but they played a heck of a game. And now they sit back and get ready for their remaining 7 games. And they've got the entire world in front of them when it comes to basketball. And it was, Tom Izzo was getting ready to break Bob Knight's record for Big Ten wins. So he had his buddy there, Mooch, and they were slapping each other in the face, and everybody. They reminded me a little bit. I don't remember the year, but Michigan State, they were poised to win the Big Ten Conference outright. They just had to beat Purdue. But before the game, someone looked up into the rafters and they saw a banner that was set to be unfurled for MSU, and it was going to say Big Ten champs. And whoever it was took a picture of that banner, and it made its way around on social media, and it made its way into the Purdue locker room. We're like, they got a banner that they're ready to unfurl on you guys. It's already up there. Take a look. And I don't know, maybe teams all the time, if they're in position to win a Big Ten championship, maybe they put the banners up there, but this one was spotted. And it became a big thing. And even during the game, the TV crew, they're up there. There's the banner. Michigan State lost it. And Purdue, after the game, was saying, we weren't letting anybody put a banner up there before us. And it became kind of a laughing, I don't know what they were, laughing stock. They were the butt of a lot of jokes. It felt a little bit like that, seeing Mooch and everybody, Steve Smith, all the MSU dignitaries all coming there to celebrate Tom Izzo and him passing the general for the all-time list, only they lost the game. And then in the process, Michigan vaults into first place all by themselves as they sit right up there. How about that? How about that for Dusty May in his first year to be atop of the Big Ten? It is it's something to be very proud of at this point for Michigan. They control their own destiny in terms of winning the conference. I have always said, even though I love conference tournaments more than anyone out there, as much as anyone out there, a regular season title means a little more for the length of the season that you have to go through. What a story that would be. And Michigan's in position. You know, they're in position. They come up with their biggest win of the year. They serve notice. It was a statement game. They did all of these things. People were wondering, I guess team's going to fall. But no. The one team that they lost to by a lot, all the other games they lost by 1, 2, 3 points. This one to Purdue, they lost by 27. They came back and beat them. So very meaningful victory and a real pressure cooker. If you, I know it was on Peacock, but even on Peacock, you could tell that there was a real intensity for the game, and Michigan playing in those circumstances and responding how they did. Not perfect, but enough to be able to get that victory. They set themselves up for more meaningful games, and that's always, that's the goal. As you sit here in mid-February, keep going, keep putting yourself in position, set yourself up where you can play for stuff, and they're doing it. And it's as impressive as any team in the country in what they're doing. I'm not saying they're as impressive like talent-wise, but what was expected of them and where they are, they're the story of college basketball. Certainly one of them with a chance to play for the conference title, and who knows what else. Certainly I wouldn't be ruling them out in any kind of Big Ten tournament right now. And, March Madness, you might be somebody that's like, they could easily be. Sure. Everybody could easily, lose one game. That's the tournament. They could also get hot. They could also be a team that could win the first weekend and get to the Sweet 16. They could get to the Sweet 16 if, they're a 3 or 4 seed. Why not Michigan when it comes down to it? That's how I feel right now as I sit here a day after Michigan takes down Purdue. Now they've got the idea of protect your home floor, win big games. They did that last night, returning serve to Purdue. Now they go down and take on Ohio State this Sunday, big game. They come back the following Friday, and they will host Michigan State. Everybody's going to be watching that game. I think Michigan should win that game at home at the Chrysler Center. Friday, February the 21st. Sign me up. Put me down for Michigan winning that game. At Nebraska, hey, winning on the road's tough. Nebraska is one of those teams that's looking for wins. They're looking for quad ones. They're trying to boost their resume. Rutgers coming back. Michigan did beat them in Piscataway, but Harper wasn't playing. Dylan Harper, a guy that's going to be a top 5 pick, along with Ace Bailey. That's not going to be some kind of laugher. Illinois, that speaks for itself. Maryland, Michigan State, again, this is a tough schedule. All of those teams, though, in the Big Ten, you start looking at it, Michigan State included, if you look through their schedule, they got a tough schedule. But Michigan can be there in the end, and they deserve everybody giving them with 7 games to go in the regular season. And look at that. They've got 4 of them at home. And they have to go to East Lansing for the last. How about that? Maybe that would be for a Big Ten championship at Michigan State, at Nebraska, and at Ohio State. There are 3 road games. Let's take a look at the feedback before we go to football. I'm already talking a little football. Andre says, MSU gave me 100 more reasons to hate them yesterday. Mr. Martini wants to know how concerned we should be about Dusty leaving for IU. A good question. When Dusty May was hired, I thought there was one job that you had to worry about him taking, and it was Indiana. And now it happens really fast. Now, for me, just to look, and it feels like it's too soon. He hasn't even completed 1 year, and to jump ship and to go to IU, even though he was born and bred and went to school. I mean, he is crimson and cream. He is, was there when Bob Knight and was a student manager, that whole thing. That's the one team, but it feels like it's too soon to me for him to jump. So, but the concern level, considering there's one team, and could you picture him saying, yeah, I really hate that it's 1 year, but it's a once in a lifetime opportunity. There'd be only one school that I would leave for. Could I see that? I could. But the part about this, it's a little bit like, and I know this is always a fun one. It's a little bit like Jim Harbaugh. Nothing was stopping. I know all these people, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. It's my opinion. Nothing was stopping Jim Harbaugh from leaving to go to the NFL last year. And if Dusty May wants to go to Indiana, nothing's going to stop him. It's not going to be Ward Manuel saying, we'll make you the highest paid coach in college basketball or whatever else he's going to say, highest paid coach in the Big Ten. Sure, he's going to get a raise and all of that. It just comes down to, does Dusty want to jump that quick? And the possibility is there. Now, look, Michigan people are all saying, oh, we're getting out ahead of it. We've already talked. Sure, they're going to do everything that they can. But let's just say it. I don't care who you're talking with or whatever Dusty says or anybody's telling anyone. There's a game to be played here behind the scenes when you're a coach and you're having success and you're able to get a big raise right off the bat. I mean, it's happening very fast. It's just the way this has come together. Other jobs, it wasn't going to be like this, but it's just going to come down to whether Dusty wants to go back home and then he wants to cut ties this fast. My gut feel is that he wouldn't. It would be too soon. But the other part of it is they hire another coach, he's going to get, even though Woodson didn't get that long, but it's going to be another, who knows if he's sitting down and talking with his wife, they're talking about their game plan and how they're going to play it and everything. And she might say, we'll probably never have another opportunity to do this. And so he's going to have to make that decision. And I do believe that Michigan will do everything that they can. And it's ultimately just going to come down to, May and his wife and what they want to do. So I'll say, considering how he has this program and the kind of coach, the start that he's off to, hopefully it's just too soon for him. I don't know anybody, you want to hear somebody say like, no way. Or, there's a chance. Sure. Thanks, Ferris. He's saying it's the best show. Yeah, I'm not worried at all about, Ward. Ward, why would you be worried about Ward? The guy that hired him. The guy that can give him as much money as he possibly can. It's not, I would say that Ward's going to have nothing to do with it. Do I think Ward is thinking, I'm going to nickel and dime Dusty so I can say, this is his guy. He hired him. This would be, I would say, let's call it, would it be a ridiculous thing to worry about? Now, look, the athletic director's office is there for fans to, belittle him and, as harsh as that sounds, second guess him and trash him. That's what ADs are for. That's what, fans do. They look at the AD and anything that goes right, it's just, they got lucky, and anything that goes wrong, they want him fired and this guy's a clown or whatever else. That's how it works. But I think there's zero. I think Ward's going to have, you have zero to worry about when it comes down to Ward. If Dusty leaves, it's going to be because his heart is full with his hometown and his school, and he will hate it. I would say for sure that he would have to leave so soon, but it's not going to have anything to do with Ward Manuel. I say trust me on that, but I would say that it's coming down to Dusty's heart. And a lot of people are trying to measure that or put Ward in there. That's the barking up the wrong tree. What's Dusty and his wife want to do? Let's see. Ferris is thinking that he is going to stay. And everybody's excited about OSU's defensive coordinator, which we will get to coming up straight ahead. Matthew would rather have the game on Peacock than Netflix. Yeah, I don't know why you would say that. I watched Netflix do football, and I thought they did a fine job. Now, I tuned in. I had no buffering problems. The broadcast was fine, and it worked out great for me. I almost never have that experience with Peacock, although last night's experience was the best. They finally figured out the gain on the crowd noise where it didn't sound like you're watching and listening to a video game, which was really it was a hard and terrible experience in almost every game that I've watched on Peacock. They felt like they got that right. Now, it wasn't perfect. They went down to the sideline reporter, and I couldn't hear her. They might as well not have had one, a sideline reporter, whatever the young lady's name was. I didn't hear anything that she had to say because they couldn't figure that out. And they still, sometimes you'll be in a commercial, and then they just throw up a graphic like, we'll be right back. And you're like, hey, did they ace me out here? Do I have a buffering problem? I tune into the game. They're like, we'll be with you shortly. And then it goes black for like a minute. And you're like, wait, is the game coming up? Or did this log me off? What's going on? So maybe you had that kind of, there were some people complaining about Netflix. So maybe that's it. You're just personal experience. Chase, I will be at the Michigan-Ohio State game. What's your prediction? I'm going to predict Michigan to win on Sunday down in Ohio State, in Columbus. Just like football, I think Michigan wins it by 3, but I will go with a higher score than 13-10. Give me 73-70 Michigan. That's what I think coming up Sunday. Let's see. If Michigan wants May to stay, they need to pay. Yeah, I don't think that's going to be an issue. I don't think that's going to be an issue at all when it comes down to it. So let's skip ahead because everybody wants to get to this big news that has happened, and that is the hiring of Matt Patricia as the defensive coordinator at Ohio State. Now, Matt Patricia was a complete clown as the head coach of the Detroit Lions. He was way in over his head. He thought he was a Billy Badass, and it totally backfired on him. He tried trashing players. He lost the room immediately, and you could even see it in preseason games, how these guys didn't want to play for him. And I wanted to, a number of times when he was the head coach of the Lions, take that pencil and snap it over his head. With the way that he was as a CEO, as the head coach of the Lions. I wanted to take that pencil and jam it into his beard and twirl it around. With some of the way that he got his team ready to play when he was head coach of the Lions. But it's a little different when you're a defensive coordinator. Now, if you're telling me You think Matt Patricia's success was all predicated if he was with Bill Belichick, he was a success, and elsewhere he was not. I think there's a point to that. I think that certainly his best and most complete seasons, his best seasons were when he coached under Bill Belichick. There's a lot of coaches that are like that. They just fit in with Bill Belichick. Matt Patricia tried to be Bill Belichick, and that didn't work. Now that he's been smacked around and, dragged through the mud, and now he gets this job, maybe that has humbled him out. He won't try to act like such a blank hole, and he'll go down and he'll just coach football, and he'll take his little pencil and, it'll work for him. I think from a fan standpoint, if you're a Michigan fan, you just laugh because you saw him up here in Detroit and he couldn't have done a worse job. And so you say, good, this is a great hire. We laugh at the pencil man being down there with Ohio State. But, it's easy to root against Matt Patricia. It is also easy to be critical of Matt Patricia. And look, what are you supposed to say as a Michigan fan? Oh, well, who knows? He's a defensive coordinator in the NFL. This might be a great hire. Sure. It also might be another pencil neck, clown show. And so, if you're a Michigan fan, think about the latter. And again, it's really easy to root against Matt Patricia, and now you have that opportunity again. So that's it. And that's how I see the hiring of Matt Patricia. So let's see what the people think. Ferris says he still has the pencil that he uses to write on his laminated sheets. Yeah, listening to him talk about the pencil, look, everybody's got their thing. You wear a bow tie or, I don't know, you wear a little bracelet. Patricia, had his pencil. He was an engineer. And so, he always wrote with pencils. People don't write with pencils anymore. People don't use pencils. Matt Patricia's in the 20th century. They hand him a computer and he's like, what's this? I don't know. Again, he's an easy one to make fun of. And it was pretty bad when he was there. So that's it. When it comes down to it. And Mustafa is saying, look, close to greatness doesn't mean you're great. That's right. And that's the thing when it came to Patricia. Anybody that's rolling out his resume, look who he was coaching with. And he worked well. And he was a good coordinator and a good coach for Bill Belichick. Other than that, what are we talking about here? And he's not here's the thing, so there's the X's and O's part. He's not a good people person. I was going to say, I actually think he's, a fine person. I don't know that. With his family and everything. I know he had some things in his past, but, I don't know about that. But I do know how he spoke to his players as a head coach and how he tried to treat and how he did treat his players and what they thought of him. And they thought he was a clown, and he wasn't genuine, and he was a joke. And that's why he lost his football team immediately. Trying to grandstand and do a bunch of, stupid things in the meeting room, calling guys out, swearing at them, berating them in front of the other players. Like he thought he was Bill Belichick or something, but even a harsher, funny, like rude, but what? You're not being rude's not funny, Matt. Take that crap down to Ohio State and start acting like that with these college kids. Is that what he's going to do? Call guys out in the middle of the meeting room and laugh at them and then start, speaking where people don't understand what he's talking about? Maybe he got some help. Maybe he went to therapy and figured some of that out and learned how to smooth out those rough edges where he treats people like, they want to be treated like you with respect, and you treat people that are your players and put them on the same level and work, through the team. Maybe he's learned some of that, or maybe he's going to be the same jerk that he was when he was with Detroit with that pencil stuffed behind his ear. And maybe Michigan, when they go out there and beat them, they can, you can take that pencil and you can snap it in half right over his head when he's writing on his laminated sheets. When Bryce Underwood's throwing another one over his team's head for another touchdown. I'll give the hire, great hire by Ohio State. Great job, Ohio State. Boy, you really scored one. Michigan fans are looking at this one and thinking, oh, no, not Matt Patricia in Columbus. Not the pencil man. Not the guy that just was able to command a room and have so much respect. The players just adored this guy. I've never heard one player say anything positive about Matt Patricia in my life. But it's been a few years. Like I said, maybe he's gone on the straight and narrow, and maybe he's figured that part out of it. I don't know. And maybe those simps down in Ohio, when they had this introductory press conference, maybe one of them will break out and actually ask him a tough question. Instead of saying, oh, it's a really nice beard. Matt, can you give us a story behind the pencil? How about, Matt, the players there was not one player that had anything good to say about you that you coached. And in fact, they all had these anecdotal stories about how you belittled them in meetings and completely lost the team before they even hit the field. What are your thoughts on that? And he'll take his pencil out, and just start fiddling with his beard or whatever else. I don't know. Great hire for Ohio State. I think that is going to work out really well for him in Columbus. Let's move on. Michigan football. Spring. Not so far away. That's the next phase. And we're looking forward to. And that is spring ball. 15 practices that culminate in a spring game. And the spring game's always exciting. There's always nice storylines, but a lot of it is hype. And then you come down to it and you see like the starting quarterback have one series, and then they're sitting. And you're like, wow, that's not as exciting as I thought. There's, a second series. And then who are these guys? And you're looking at a chart and everything else. It's going to be different this year. The number one reason is the guy that's pictured. And even if you're listening on the podcast, you know who I have pictured. All eyes are going to be on number 19 and what kind of spring he had and how he looks as a 17-year-old running the Michigan offense. Does it look like it's going to take him a few games, take him half the season? Is he going to, sit all year long behind somebody like Mikey Keene? We'll get to him coming up as well. But we've had quarterback competitions before. But if we had a 17-year-old who was a local prodigy with a transfer quarterback coming in who's never thrown a pass for Michigan into spring, I'm going to say no. So just based on that alone, it is going to be an incredibly exciting spring game. Of course, those spring practices and what happens. Oh, by the way, another great reason to join up with the Maize and Blue Review. To get the stories behind the scenes of what's going on actually in those practices. But how about the offense of guys that are in for spring? These are the true freshmen that'll be in that were already down in bowl practices And I have absolutely nothing against the offensive linemen and Babaloa and Gatch and Strayhorn. And if you heard Jim Scarcelli on Monday, he was talking with someone who was saying how impressed they were with Gatch and what they have seen from him just in limited time in some of those bowl practices. Nothing wrong with hearing good news about, oh, hey, Gatch looks pretty good right out of the gate. And Strayhorn, but and even Eli Owens. But when you think about the positions of question for U of M, we have just gone through the quarterback situation, and every podcast from now until the start of the season is going to include some kind of, what do you think of Bryce Underwood? What do you think of the quarterback position? How's it going to work out? What do you think of the dynamics? Any other possible question you could ask about it, you'll ask. You want to know, I want to know, and it's the number one story with Michigan. There's no argument. That's it. But the wide receiver position, 2 guys are in early for spring. I want to see what Jamar Browder looks like in the maize and blue in spring practice, in the spring game. Andrew Marsh. I'm hoping that Andrew Marsh and Jamar Browder are both playing in the spring game. I actually hope they're on the same side on the same offense with Bryce Underwood. I wouldn't mind seeing Bryce Underwood throw to his classmates and Browder and Marsh in the spring game and think, wow, Michigan's really got something here with one of these guys or both. Can it be any more exciting than that? Well, let's turn the page, because you also have a bunch of guys coming in on defense that will be, if they're able to get through the practices, available in that spring game. None bigger than the NOB. If Michigan didn't have Bryce Underwood, we'd be talking about the NOB, Nathaniel Owasso Boateng, a lot more. He's a 5-star linebacker. Michigan's got some linebackers, but this is the part of, I root for the 3. I root for everyone. But I always like it when you get let's say I've got Chase Taylor down there. He's not coming in with the credentials as NOB. But let's say Chase Taylor, is great. You say, wow, as a 3-star, he was great. Who saw it coming? Nobody. But everybody sees it coming with NOB. He's got lofty credentials. He's a super. He's a 5-star. So all eyes will be on Boateng, Owasso Boateng. And there's a lot of people that are saying that they wouldn't be surprised to see Shamari Earls get some early playing time for Michigan at somewhere. Corner. I'll say corner. And so another guy. So 5-star, Earls, the rest of these guys, again, nothing against the defensive linemen in Holly or Kanka or Moten. It's just harder as we sit here right now. I know that Mason Graham, even in the spring of early when he came in, was great immediately. So maybe one of these guys will hear, Julius Howley's unblockable. Great. I'm just at this early juncture, mid-February, thinking about spring and why it's going to be exciting in that game. So it's not just all of these guys. And this is like a complete team almost when you think about Underwood, Babaloa, Gatch, and Strayhorn on the offensive line, Browder and Marsh, and Owens on the offensive side, and then the NOB and Chase Taylor at linebacker, Earls, and then the 3 defensive ends, Moten, Kanka, and Holly. I expect 1 or 2 or 3 of these guys to have a lot of buzz about them and around them and figure into next year's plans. I'll say the same thing on the offensive side. Maybe both of those wide receivers, but I'm guessing one of them. And of course, Underwood, we've been through his story. So, and then it's not just the in for spring guys. You think about the defensive portal acquisitions, there's a lot of, Michigan's got Rayshon Benny back. The big kid from Alabama, the big kid from Clemson up front. How do those big fellows look up front? That's what, you'll take some expert opinions on. Oh, he moves pretty well, uses his hands. Todd Bowles' kid from Georgia. The Metcalf twins. Sky's the limit. Caleb Anderson from Louisiana. Michigan has had a nice run when you think of their DBs. Amir Hall, who was it on the championship team? Josh Wallace from UMass. Well, I kind of feel like Caleb Anderson. You're telling me by in mid-season, Caleb Anderson's going to be manning one of the corner spots and going to be some lockdown corner? Be like, well, I don't know. It happened the last 2 years. Why not this year? And then you have the offensive portal guys that we'll be seeing in the spring. And this may be the most exciting page now that I've put it up there. Can Mikey Keene, what can he do in a spring game? There'll be Bryce Underwood will be over there on the sideline just throwing little 10-yard passes. Woo! Be like, oh, did you see the zip? You can just see the zip on the ball. And then Keene could go out there. I don't know how many drives, but he could orchestrate 3 drives, make all the throws, and at the end of the spring game, like, oh, Underwood's going to be starting still. So that's what he's up against. He knows that, and both you and I know that. So, but it's going to be fascinating nonetheless. Keene has to go out there and play his game. He's under extraordinary pressure, not from his own teammates, but just from a fan perspective, where he's not going to get a fair shake. You might say to yourself, I'm going to give him a fair shake. If he's the starter, I'm going to be rooting for him. Of course you will. But everything he does is going to be met with like, that wasn't Underwood. Underwood will do it better. Underwood's bigger, stronger, faster, local. Underwood's going to be a number 1 pick in the NFL draft. And what's Mikey Keene going to be? So that's part of the story as well. Quarterbacks, it's always like that. And now, here you are. That's like a lot of those quarterbacks, and why a lot of those quarterbacks, when it came down to, Michigan's looking at this guy. The guy's like, I'm not going to Ann Arbor and dealing with that. Keene accepted the challenge to do that. Scar also mentioned on Monday that he was talking with somebody about the wide receiver position at Michigan, and the name Donovan McCulley was mentioned as not just a serviceable wide receiver, not just a big target from Indiana. What was the words that he used? Did he say difference maker? Did he say stud? Did he say star? It was around. Those are the kind of, I think, plaudits that were being used. That whoever Jim Scarcelli was talking with when they were speaking about the wide receiver, Donovan McCulley. I think if I was making a list of the 3 people that I would be most interested, and I think the people will be most interested to see in spring, 1, Bryce Underwood. I think that's going to be a consensus pick, number 1. Number 2, is where it's going to get interesting. I think there will be folks that will say Donovan McCulley. There'll be people that say Mikey Keene. You might say Justice Haynes, who Scar was also talking about. And we've seen some flashes from him. Heck, we saw him carry the ball against Michigan in the Rose Bowl. And then all of this talk about the freshman wide receivers and McCulley, and who's to say that Anthony Simpson doesn't step up and steal the show? Right. And I don't know. You got to be a pretty diehard if you're like, I'm most excited to see the competition at left guard. Hey, that's when you're a big fan. I'm excited about the competition at left guard. Let's do it. So that's that, and that's where I'm at when it comes down to Michigan and a little just ways off, way too early. I don't know what you want to say. My thoughts about spring and why it would be and why it's exciting and might be the most exciting. You hear that this is going to be the most anticipated spring football game ever. It's like, is that really true? Yes. Yes, it is. Just look at the quarterback position. Then look at the transfers. Then look at the unknowns with the position, like wide receiver. Look at the 5 stars. Look who's coming in. Yeah. Look after having a down season, but the best 8-5 season that you could possibly have. I think about how I felt after Michigan went and lost by 5 points at Indiana. Sharon Moore was at his low point in his coaching career, what I look like. Last year when he filled in, he did a good job in game management situations and how he ran the team. I really wasn't worried about him there. He did a fine job. But in that Indiana game, he did a terrible job. In the Oregon game, from a game management job, terrible job. And so you got to call it like you see it there. You can't just be patting him on the back. It's, oh, great job. Now, terrible job. Michigan's 5-5. But we know the rest. They ripped off those 3 victories. And then between the Indiana game and Northwestern, they were able to get Bryce Underwood. It did feel like the sky turned blue and the sun came out and there was a reversal in fortune, or at least there was the trajectory changed a little bit or a lot, however you're looking at it. I'm going to say a lot. And then Michigan beat Northwestern to get bowl eligible. Nice. They pounded Northwestern. And then they beat Ohio State, which is always great and was, all things considered, a historic performance and a great one by Michigan. And then they followed it up in the bowl game to get this feeling of can't wait for the spring game. And that's where we're at right now. Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's go for an off-topic question. Ferris says Matt Patricia has reduced his body volume considerably. Ozempic is a hell of a drug. If you're somebody like, so I need to lose weight myself, but I'm doing it the old-fashioned way right now. Chicken wings and blue cheese. No, I'm doing it the old-fashioned way. I'm eating better and I'm eating less. But I was just at the doctor today, and she said to me, what about one of these? She didn't call it Ozempic. She was calling it one of these other drugs. I don't know. They got different names. And I said, well, if, at some point, if it's not working, I would consider it, from what I'm doing. But I said, I'm giving it a shot here. And do you look down on people that are using, Ferris is having fun here, but if Matt Patricia, couldn't keep the Doritos out of his mouth and blew up, for whatever reason, but then tried Ozempic and he's in a healthy weight and he's able to do it, I say good for him. Now, I still want to smash that pencil in his beard and all of that, but, it could be me. It could be a little, I don't know. I'm not an overly sensitive person there, but I do see people making jokes about that drug, but it looks like it works. And, no, we don't know the downsides to it. So there is that part. Downside. There's not there have been studies, and most of the studies you look at, they're not like, oh my God, this is terrible, but we don't have long range studies on it. But I mean, if it works, the one part about it is that you read about it and they talk about it being like almost like a magic drug. And that's always a little scary. Well, magic drug, just take it. You're all set. Pretty easy. But that's just as an aside, and that's serious. I don't know if anybody can handle that. Here, Mustafa's excited about Boateng, McCulley, and then here's a question about the spring game. It always it used to be where it was just like a glorified kind of practice kind of thing. But they know that they bring TV in there and they want to see some semblance of some kind of scrimmage. It's what I would tell you, Mustafa, is that it's not a game. It's not even but you might get a little scrimmage, but you feel like $1,000,000 after going to see a Michigan spring game because you're over here watching a podcast on the Michigan spring game in February. You can't get enough of Michigan. And then to actually you hear about it, everybody talking about it, and then you actually get in there and watch and you see the players that you're actually talking about, and you get into the stadium and the price is right. It's been free. I say that and maybe start charging people. I don't know. I thought the year after the championship game that they'd, get 80,000 in there and there's like 15, something like that. But it was cold. But is Bryce Underwood? I mean, will Michigan get over 25,000 because of all the things that I said? I'll tell you, with every degree above 50, I feel like there's going to be an extra 5,000. Get me to 55 degrees. I'll give you 50,000. You get 60 degrees. Would there really be that many? 75,000. Maybe I better dial that down a little bit. But the weather is a huge factor. You get a nice 60 degree. Give me 55 degrees. And it was like 40. It's not fun when the wind's blowing to sit out and 40 degrees. I know from the Midwest and everything, it's Michigan, but it's I get when people are like, "Oh, just watch it on TV," even though that. But it's a great time. I encourage everybody to come on out. It is awesome. Long-time tradition goes all the way back to Rich Rod. Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about there. What, that they'll have a scrimmage? Yeah, Lloyd didn't really like to have a scrimmage. The coaches don't want it. They don't want to show any. Like, I don't know if you know about this, but coaches, they're all really smart and they do all these things. They don't want anybody getting tape on them. They all think, when you think about it, they think everybody is not only spying on them, everybody's got cameras, the games are all on, every one of their players is being contacted afterwards. They're all getting contacted afterwards anyways, but anything that's shown out there is like, oh my God, Michigan, they ran a reverse, but I get it. There's formations, there's different ways you want to play defense. They're pretty vanilla when it comes down to it because, my God, they don't want New Mexico to, see that they were, playing some press coverage or something. I don't know. Wink's smart enough, he knows that Venables will be and company will be watching. So, he'll throw something in there to make him work on it or whatever. The spring game, my first spring game was in 1994 that I went to. I can recall being up in the broadcast booth. We were broadcasting the game locally. It was Doug Karst, the play-by-play man right now for Michigan football, was doing the spring game in 1994. I was there for stats. And at one point, Gary Moeller came into the broadcast booth, the head coach of the Wolverines. And he would not make, oh, wait, was it 94? Yeah, he did make it, but he would not make it to the 95 season. And then that 95 season, they didn't do a whole lot of game, and there would be some scrimmages. There were a couple there with Lloyd where he would just have the guys on some blocking sleds and do some things, but I don't even know. They never had a game. And then they scrapped a couple with weather, and it was like, good. They were happy. It was just like Harbaugh coming out of the pandemic. It was like, we're not going to let anybody in. We let a couple family members, no TV cameras. They were switching to a 3-4. If they could, they don't. The coaches don't like the spring game. Let's be honest about that. Lose it naturally, the way it was intended to be. I do have to admit, if you're able to do it naturally, I always see that with people that you follow that might be giving you like a weightlifting tip. They're jacked or whatever. Almost every comment, like pretty quick, one of the first three, whether they're a natural bodybuilder or not, somebody will say, "Yeah, you just take steroids. You're on performance enhancers." Every guy that's in there that lift weights, they get that comment. So, and anybody that lose weights, they'll be like, "Oh, that guy's on those something." But yeah, natural's the way to go. I'm with you. That's going to do it. This was a naturally organic show. Thanks for watching. We'll be back with you on Friday and then certainly Sunday after the Michigan-Ohio State game. Have a great day. And if you're in and around Southeast Michigan, has it started to snow yet? Yes. Yes, it has. The snow has begun. I'm hunkering down. Take care. That'll do it for this show. Goodbye.